Hello everybody and welcome to Arghanion's Puzzlebox. In this video I really wanted to share with you guys my newest volume of clouds, which is now released on Unreal Engine Marketplace, Patreon, Gumroad, ArtStation. This particular cloud volume, volume number 3, is going to bring a slew of new additions to my cloud pack. So the first thing is a brand new shader, which is going to make the clouds look photorealistic. We'll also introduce 3 blueprints to control the clouds. One of them is for a single cloud generator, another one for 2 different clouds or multiple, and then the third one is a Volumetric Cloud Component, which allows you to pretty much change the volumetric clouds from Unreal Engine with these VDB ones, which are higher in quality. You have options for density, option for color, option for the scale and size and all sorts of things, or self-shadowing and things like that. So these clouds are meant for gameplay as well. For cinematics especially, I think they're going to be, really good, and they're, as I said, photorealistic pretty much. Now, this entire upgrade for the shader and for the blueprint is also going to be coming to Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the cloud packs that are available, but I'm now releasing it with Volume 3, and I've got Volume 1 and Volume 2 into the upgrade process, and I will be releasing that very soon. So if you already bought the cloud pack, you will be able to get the new upgraded version for this. Now, this particular pack is only supported in Unreal Engine 5.3. It does not work in a previous version, and it doesn't work with a different sort of plugin or whatever. This works natively with Unreal Engine 5.3. So all you really need to do is just either get it from the Unreal Engine Marketplace or migrate the cloud pack to your project from the project that you're buying from ArtStation or Gumroad, and you'll be able to use it straight away. If you are an enjoyer of clouds in general and you really love to art direct your clouds, this pack is for you. So let's begin the video in which I'm showcasing to you all the options and how they look like and how they behave. So let's begin. Okay, and there we have it. We are in Unreal Engine 5.3 and we have the VDB collection open. This is the Cirrus Cloud Collection. Now, if you like the Microsoft Microsoft Simulator Clouds, then I'm sure you will love these. So let's just have a tour over what's available. So this particular collection has all of these Cirrus's clouds in here, and they're all running the same sort of material, and they're all blueprint controlled. So if we select this particular cloud here, you can see we can fly right up to it, and it's very detailed and very nice, and you can fly through it. You can do loads of cinematics just by flying through this cloud. And right now we're noticing some parameters here on the right side that controls various aspects of the cloud. So for example, the first option being the ability to use a scattering function to change some of its details. Generally, it will tend to try and maintain a sort of a blue hint, or depending on the atmosphere, looks like it will change. But let's say we put this over to like a red or something like that. And then we have a density multiplier, which allows us to bring more of the VDB in or less of the density that's been exported out of the parent DCC. And in here we have the option to load multiple other VDBs, like in the sense that if you want to change this VDB to another shape like the ones over here, then you can just drag and drop that into there. So you got it in the VDB collection. You've got all of these textures, and you've got these as well, and you can drop whichever you want from these files. So the moment you drop it in, it will replace the cloud with something else. So this particular blueprint only allows you to spawn 1 cloud per blueprint. So you can multiply this a lot of times just to get more clouds in the scene, much like what I've done here. So there's obviously quite a few of them. Now, with the next parameter, it allows us to change some of the other aspects of the density. So, for example, reducing the density in certain parts while maintaining it in others with the remap input high. We also can reduce the amount of density, so removing all the denser areas and keep the lower density areas within the screen. And then we can also look at extending that density multiplier even more, making them more into more of these solid shape clouds as well. And then we can also make sure that we again remove the structure or add more to it, but just be careful with that, because at some point you'll start seeing this cube, which can actually be quite useful to get really nice sun rays, as you can see there. So this has a use as well if you're if you're careful with it, you can create some nice thick fogs if you're quite quite clever with it. We also have two other options, which, by the way, these are global options. So if we deactivate the indirect lighting, this is how these clouds will look like when you import them in Unreal Engine without any sort of shader tweaks. So by clicking this on, you get this nice, cool looking cloud lifelike effect for your clouds. And then you also have the infinite trace. So let's say we're about here and we click this, then all the clouds disappear. And that's because you've got to be very close for them to be visible anymore. Actually, these clouds are so big that you're not going to be able to see them at all, even if you get quite close. So yeah, I would definitely leave that as an option on. But if you have a very small cloud and you're in a very small environment, then you can leave that unticked. But for now, let's obviously put it back to on, right? Because as I said, the scale of these clouds is quite large, so that's why you're not able to see it without the infinite trace. Now the next sort of thing, the next option is the cloud self shadow. So this doesn't mean that it will cast a shadow on the ground. It just means that it will be able to use the density it's got to create more shadow on the surface. And now it's set to 1. By default, it would be a 0. So that's how it looks like with no self shadowing. Obviously, the density is still not allowing all the light to pass through, but it's still not that very, not that very nice. So if we start cranking up this number, you'll notice you can really add quite a lot of shadow to your clouds. Thus, you can art direct them even more, right? But the default value, we'll keep that to 1. And now the desaturation option allows you to take the scattering color from here and saturate it or desaturate it, which allows you to further art direct your clouds. And if you want, you can use a subscattering color as well. So let's say we make this into a green or something. And then if you desaturate, you're going to be getting some different sort of blends. Like, for example, if that was a neutral white here, then we can see the green tint from the subscattering color coming through. You can see how you can get that even more. So this allows you so much more control over the clouds than, normally you'd get. So you're really able to push some really wild effects by using these particular settings. On default, it will, to the color white, it will just give you a bit of a blue tintage to your clouds, which is more natural than anything else. Now, all the other clouds in here have the same sort of settings. So for example, I could select, these here as an example, these 3. And then I can have a look with them selected to increase their density, maybe to a 0.5. And then maybe I want some self shadow to 3 or something. So you see all the 3 clouds have changed once I started changing those settings. I can also have a look at, for example, maybe I want to reduce the amount that's being displayed on the screen, so I can do a 0.3 or 2 if I want them to be a lot more dense. So you can see there's a lot of options in here. Obviously, you have multiple textures selected in here, so that's not going to display what you're actually using. But those are some of the options for this. So this is the Cirrus Collection cloud. Now, if we open a new map, we have another example map where it's got the Cumulonimbus clouds, and let's not save that. Now we're going to open this one, and you can see these clouds are a lot thicker and a lot taller. So these are the different kind of cloud buildup that you can do. Again, this is running on the single cloud blueprint, so it's got all those settings. So these are quite nice for building up your, very tall cloud structures as well. So very nice, very cinematic. You can fly through them, and they give you so much more. Such a nice atmosphere, I think, overall. And again, there's like endless possibilities of how much you can customize these. The next option, we have a Cumulus Cloud, which is, sort of like fairly medium type clouds. If you know your clouds, then you know what to expect in this particular pack, and there's quite a lot of them in here, so there's a lot to work with. By the way, we can take one of these, for example, here, and let's have a look into the VDB collection, the one that's got only 2, which is the Contrail Cloud. I've not made an example map of this, but let me just show you one of them in action. So if we use that in here, you'll notice that this is actually a one of those from a jet or something like that. So that's really neat and really cool. Generally, these are probably going to need a bit more thickness, but yeah, you can have like a sort of a running a straight line of clouds through this. So this is part of the pack as well. Again, all of these have the same settings. You can increase their self shadow and all of that, which is really useful. So for example, these will have a more dramatic effect as you increase the self shadow because they're a lot more dense. So you can see where the self shadow is hitting. And by the way, these clouds are reactive to light. So what I mean by this is like, if we take the sun up there, you'll notice how the sun rays positions and all that changes. And you can see how the clouds will be affected by the lighting conditions of our directional light. So this also gives you a lot of flexibility, again, with art directing your scene. Now the next map that we have in here, we have a volumetric cloud example. So if we double click this one, this will show you the same clouds, but now with the volumetric component. So these are the normal ones done with the, with just normal blueprint. And it's one of them is done with a single. So that one here is done with a single blueprint. But then we have also one here with a multiple clouds. So what that means is that you're going to have two clouds. So that's cloud number 1. And that's cloud number 2 that you could sort of modify at the same time in one blueprint. And obviously you can add more clouds to this if you'd like, just by multiplying the number of clouds available inside. But then every cloud is controllable. So for example, in cloud 2, I'm going to select my root file of the blueprint. And maybe I want, cloud 2 to be something else, not the same as cloud 1. By default, both of them are going to be a Cirrus. So in order to do that, we can just load up the texture in here. So we're going to go in our VDB collection, maybe select, I don't know, not a Cirrus, maybe Cumulus one. Okay, so we're going to select that one. And now I can just drop that in there. And you're noticing that that's now changed that cloud. And then this one has remained with whatever it had loaded to begin with. So we can load up another one in there as well if we'd like. So maybe down here we can load this one, and you'll see that that's now changed as well. So we've got two different clouds that can be moved around and changed. But the reason why we're here is because of the volumetric clouds, which are right here in the background. And these are using a sort of a material setup that was showcased by the guy, what was his name now? Tinenbald, I think it is. I'll put his link in the description anyway, just so you can see the guy who's made, who's like the grandfather of these sort of VDB clouds. So that's really cool in Unreal Engine. But these clouds are massive, and they can be adjusted by various different sort of, options. Like, for example, you can move these clouds around like that, or you can scale them up or down. So let's say we want to scale down, and then again we can move this about. And these clouds belong to the component cloud. So the cloud that can extend over the atmosphere, and you'll see that they react to light as well. They actually react better than the other clouds. Because they are done for the volumetric component cloud system, which again, you can add whatever cloud you want from the VDB file for this, and it will really allow you to create some very, very cool and interesting shapes with this, as you can see, right? So these clouds are quite mega in size, as opposed to these smaller ones, which you can use in sort of like, like closer, smaller scenes that you can control. But then those ones are going to be, massive clouds all over the planet, or whatever you want to call it, really. And what I want to do is I want to show to you how quickly and how easy it is to set up a basic scene for clouds. So all you really need to do is create a new level. We'll just do a test level here. Okay. And once we open that, we're going to be greeted with a completely sorry, it's just asking me if I want to save the, okay, fine, we can save it. So we've opened the test level. So once you open it, you're going to get a complete blank page, and now we need to add some stuff. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go to my tools, to my window, and select environment light mixer. Over in here, I can quickly create a skylight, an atmospheric light, a sky sphere. I'm not going to click the volumetric fog cloud, but I'm going to click the create height fog. So that gives me a very basic scene with a sun in there, right? So now we're going back into our blueprints, and we've got 3 blueprints to pick from. The first blueprint we're going to start is the BP volumetric VDB. So I'm going to add that in there, make sure that it's actually central. Actually, this particular blueprint by default is centralized. So with it selected, I'm going to press F on the keyboard to go to it. Okay. So now we can see it over here. It's in the center of the world. Now the first thing, it's got already the material loaded, so you don't really need to do anything there for now, but you've got to tell it how many clouds you want to generate. So we can have a maximum of 3 with this setup. You can add more in the blueprint if you'd like, but we're going to click 1, 2, 3, and this has already loaded up some clouds in there. And these clouds all have these triangles here that you can then move. As you've got the blueprint selected, you can move around, which will allow you to control those clouds. Now, what I would normally advise is you go out into space, so to speak, and then start adjusting these clouds however you'd like. So obviously, if you have an actual environment, you're able to better see what you're doing. But as you can see, as I'm moving stuff around, I am actually changing these clouds. So you can scale them down a bit, you know, bring them around here like that or something. And you'll notice that when you get them close to the ground, they sort of disappear. So maybe you don't want that to happen. But we've got 3 clouds in the scene now, and they look quite bad. So you're going to need to, you know, get some settings done. So the first thing is, if we double click the material in here, we are able to then add whatever type of cloud we want. And again, that's being done through the VDB collection that you've got. So you can select other different type of clouds that you can just sort of, you know, drop in there, and that will change what clouds you're seeing, which you just noticed we've done that, right? But this does not help with, oh, by the way, you also got other options in here that you can play around with, as you can see. But I'll leave you to experiment with that. That's just more about, you know, how the VDB material is done. You can control the density from here if you want these clouds to be a lot more dense. Maybe make them look like an anime kind of thing. And you can also play around a bit with the scale of how they're being displayed in the world. But more importantly, because this is a volumetric component cloud, you can select the volumetric cloud component from here, and you're going to have some options, like for example, the layer bottom altitude, which is allowing you to cut the clouds from the bottom. Then you can also tell them how high they can go. So if you decrease that, you will literally slice them from the top. The tracing distance, how far you can see these clouds, and how, you know, actually I think right now we're too close to them. So anyway, I would keep this to the max for now. And then you've got tracing max distance. So, oh, sorry, this is the start. So from where you start seeing them, and this is the max distance. So I believe if you decrease this to 1, you'll not be able to see them. Yeah, there we go. So we're slicing them. But I would keep this to, you can probably keep it to the maximum like that, even though you're getting those artifacts. But to fix those artifacts, very important is to start playing with these settings. So for example, this setting will allow you to darken them if you want. This is going to help you increase their sample count, and I think you can actually go even higher than this, but I think anything above 8 isn't really going to play much of a factor. You can then again play around with some more of these settings, like this setting for example will help with the shadows, so again it will eliminate some more artifacting, and I believe this one here, yeah, will also eliminate some of the artifacting. You're still sort of noticing some there because they're just too close to the ground. So what really you'd want to do is start playing with either the, you can play around with the you know, the height fog. So for example, bring some fog up there to cover some of that. But then you'd still want to probably raise these clouds up. And one of the ways you could do it, like I've said, is you could just look at a lower altitude and start cutting some of those up. But you can always just move the clouds higher up in the air, right? So for example, we could select, I believe that's the one. Yeah, you see, we can just lift that up there, and also maybe make it bigger, and then move it like that. You see, so now we have some basic clouds set up in our scene, and these clouds, by the way, they can cast shadows on the world as well. Now what we want to do is add the other blueprint, which is for the normal cloud. So this is a single cloud. We're going to use that one. Going to drop it in the scene. Right now it has no cloud loaded. So I'm going to go into my VDB collection quickly and pick up one of these, maybe number 5, and drop it in there. But you're not really seeing it, and that's because we've got to select infinite trace. And this is a very ugly cloud right now. So I'm going to click indirect lighting as well. And we're ready to go. So the first thing I want to do is maybe give it some more self-shadow. And I also would like to increase its size. So I made it quite large. You can see this cloud is now pretty much useful, well, ready to use right away, right? And you can have a look at doing some more self-shadow. By the way, this self-shadow is by default only affecting the Z, so it's growing from the Z-axis, but that doesn't mean that you can change it. So if you select the cloud loader, double-click the material to open it, so in the actual material setup itself, which I'm hoping to be able to show you a bit of it in here, you will be able to you will be able to do 1, 1, 1, which will mean that all the free coordinates will be affected by the self shadow, not just the z-axis. So that's where it's starting from effectively, but you can do it so that it just affects the whole cloud. And then the self shadow won't be done based on the bottom anymore. It will be done based on the density, which can have various effects. It can have positive effects and bad effects depending on what type of cloud you're trying to do. But that's pretty much how easy it is to set up clouds in the CloudForge. So yeah, what do you think? You can just sort of go and fly through the clouds now if you'd like. So remember, if you want to support the channel, just consider going on Patreon or buying this cloud pack from my stores. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to talk to me about, just go on Discord and we can communicate there. It's a two-way lane, so we can talk about anything you'd like or any questions that you may have. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.